Okay, so hey guys, welcome to today's stream, and today we will be covering the WWDC conference that took place last weekend, and we will, not last weekend, last week, and we will also be covering the latest Debian 12 release, and an Indian TikTok competitor shutting down, and some other tech news as well. So let's get started here. Let me pull up the first story. Just a general kind of talk. We're going to talk a bit about WWDC here, the latest Apple Vision Pro headset, which was of course released during WWDC. Let me reject all. So why don't we cover first the 15-inch MacBook Pro? Not MacBook Pro, MacBook Air. The MacBook Pro already existed in 15-inch configuration. Well, actually it was 16-inch, but anyway. The 15-inch MacBook Air is the thinnest laptop to date. It has, as it says here, 18 hours of battery life advertised. So, of course, we'll have to see how long the battery life actually is, whether Apple's claims whether they can be trusted, or whether, sometimes the manufacturers advertise the battery life as being longer than it actually is in reality. However, that will have to be tested by reviewers on YouTube and, tech YouTubers and people in the industry in general. But yeah, so apart from that, it also has 6 speakers. So it has a nice speaker setup there. So that will probably kind of provide some good audio, some good, audio quality. And yeah, of course, it also has the M2 chip. So that's the one of Apple's latest chips, and it's quite powerful. And of course, they're not going to give it the M2 Ultra or M2 Max, because for the kind of portable computer, they can't really accommodate a more powerful chip in it, I don't think. And of course, this is more designed for kind of lighter use cases. I mean, it's a MacBook Air, so the kind of pro laptop that Apple markets is the MacBook Pro. So they kind of want all the people doing stuff like video editing and other intensive workloads to go over to the MacBook Air. And for people who are slightly light to work, maybe they do word processing, browsing the web, doing other stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of, lighter tasks is what the MacBook Air is really designed for. And of course, because it's a new MacBook, it comes with the new, the MagSafe port. So, you can now do MagSafe charging. So it was pretty cool to see Apple bring that back last year. And yeah, that's here to stay, it seems, at least for now. And yeah, it's just another release of a different MacBook form factor. However, the 15-inch MacBook Air might be a interesting proposition for some people who kind of want a bigger machine, still a portable machine, but they want a bit of a bigger screen. Yeah, maybe if you enjoy that, and you also just want a kind of thin laptop that, you don't really have that much of an kind of intensive, workload that you put on the computer, then the new MacBook Air could be a interesting proposition. Anyway, so kind of a bit of a smaller update is with the Mac Studio. So of course, last year they announced this new Mac Studio. And yeah, it's of course roughly 3 times as roughly 3 times taller than the Mac Mini. And yeah, it's just got an update here with the M2 Max and M2 Ultra. Of course, it originally launched with the M1 Max and M1 Ultra, so it's a logical update that they update these Mac Studios to actually have the latest chips, because these bring some performance upgrades, which of course, if you're a kind of pro, if you're doing stuff like editing, which the Mac Studio is made for, then having that kind of processing power will be quite helpful. And yeah, overall, it's just a nice update for people buying the Mac Studio. Of course, the video bandwidth being increased will actually be quite helpful for quite a few people who use the Mac Studio for editing and, design work, because now you can connect to 8K display at a higher refresh rate. So that will probably be a nice improvement for many Mac Studio users. Although, I do question how many people are currently using 8K displays. Anyway, there's also the Mac Pro. So they announced the new Mac Pro with the M2, I think it was the M2 Max and M2 Ultra chips. I actually didn't put anything about the Mac Pro in my notes for some reason. Because I don't know why I didn't do that. But yeah. Oh yeah, it comes with the M2 Ultra. Yeah, so the most powerful chip that Apple are making right now. And yeah, overall the M2 Ultra is kind of the chip that's most suited to this use case, I would say, because of course, if you're buying a Mac Pro, it's a very expensive machine, so you would want the best performance that you can get for those heavier workloads that people might use a Mac Pro for. And one thing that people have been complaining about is that although there's a lot of good updates in this new Mac Pro, sadly, you can no longer replace the RAM, so you're stuck with the RAM you buy from Apple when you actually buy the machine. So that is a bit of a turn off for some pro users who might want to replace their RAM and maybe upgrade it at some point. Well, with this new Mac Studio, it seems like you can't. So that's kind of sad, especially for kind of right to repair and just being able to fix your own electronics. Yeah, that's not a good development. But yeah, continuing on. So there's a number of other things that were announced at the WWDC conference. I will cover a few of these after. However, first I wanted to talk about one of the main things people have been talking about. It's the thing that I put in the title for this video, so definitely need to mention this one. It's the Apple Vision Pro AR/VR headset. And this is of course, the latest kind of new product from Apple. So they've never released any sort of AR or VR headset before. And this headset has a new OS called Vision OS. And it's, there's some quite interesting technology that goes into this new headset, including the new eyesight feature, which allows you to basically reveal your eyes to people if they get close enough to you and you're looking at them. So that's quite an interesting that's quite an interesting thing to put into the headset. So effectively, if you look at somebody, effectively the screen on the back of the Vision Pro will actually display your eyes kind of as the camera see them, as the internal cameras see them. So that's an interesting one. So instead of it being, transparent as it looks, as in it looks like it's transparent, kind of piece of glass on the back. It's actually a display, an OLED display with, you know, a kind of the camera, what the camera sees of your eyes. So that's kind of interesting. It seems like it's mainly designed for kind of work and watching movies and stuff like that. There wasn't anything really said about gaming, so there's not really much that we know about, you know, what developers could do with gaming on this headset. And at the price tag of this device, $3,500, it will be very difficult to justify buying one of these just for simple gaming. For many people, because, you know, it's quite an expensive device, and, you know, you probably need to have a specific use case for buying this thing, such as maybe developing applications or just wanting one and having loads of money. Yeah, so, you know, you would have to have a specific reason to be buying one of these, I feel, because, you know, for many people, that $3,500 price tag for pretty much everybody is quite price prohibitive, even for Apple products. So, yeah, I would say, although there's a lot of cool technology going into this thing, with a lot of, you know, like high resolution kind of, you know, screens on the inside. You know, the headset is really of good quality. However, with the price tag of $3,500, it is very hard to see who would buy this thing, given that you can't really game on it. You know, as in, it's not really designed for gaming. There's not really that many practical applications for it yet, given that there's no apps for it except from Apple apps. So Apple in-house apps such as Mail, iCloud, you know, Messages, all of those. And of course Safari, so you can still browse web pages. However, right now, you know, there's no apps from third-party developers. So for now, I feel developers may buy this device just to try and put apps on this device for when eventually it gets some sort of app store. You know, if that happens, then yeah, of course, will happen eventually. But for now, there's no app store, and yeah, right now you can only use in-house apps. However, Apple have announced that that the dev kits for this Vision Pro headset will be out as early as July of this year. So that's only next month. So that will be, you know, quite a thing for developers to develop for this kind of new Apple platform, which, you know, is quite different from the other platforms which Apple have had before. You know, previously they didn't really have anything 3D. So that's an interesting one for the developers who now have to develop for this kind of 3D environment, this AR, VR headset. And yeah, that will be an interesting one to see. And of course, as it says here, Disney Plus has announced it will actually have an app for the Apple Vision Pro at launch. And yes, so, of course, a lot of big companies will rush to develop an app for this new device and try and kind of get ahead of the curve, developing applications for this headset. And yeah. Let's just see what people are has anybody said anything in the comments? No? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, let's continue on. Why don't we actually talk about the smaller updates to kind of iOS and tvOS, which are coming, you know, which were announced at WWDC and will come in the September update to, you know, the to all of the different Apple OSs. So one of the updates is with Apple TV. So Apple TV will now let you actually make FaceTime calls using your TV and with your iPhone or iPad acting as a webcam using the new using the continuity camera technology. Feature to basically let you use your iPhone or iPad's camera as the webcam for these TV video calls. So this will be pretty cool for people who kind of just want to get their their FaceTime calls on the big screen, and yeah, so they can actually talk to people they know on the big screen. That might make them feel more connected. And of course, with the Vision Pro headset, you'll also be able to FaceTime people. So it does seem like they have quite an emphasis on FaceTime this time around. But yeah, it's just an interesting new feature for tvOS. It almost seems like something that should have already been in tvOS. I'm actually kind of surprised that it wasn't there before. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Oh yeah, so one feature that I wanted to cover when it comes to the iOS updates, there will be a new feature called Check-in that allows you to basically check in with your family and friends to tell them that you got home safely. So this could be quite helpful so people feel, so people can actually so basically this could be quite helpful for people who are kind of going out somewhere. Maybe they just want to let their family and friends know that they'll actually be home. And if they don't get home, then they'll know the last location that they were at, and they'll be able to that will help find the person, hopefully. And yeah, overall this could just be a quite helpful feature, to stop basically to help people get home safely. And yeah, overall it's just a nice safety feature. And also, I should probably mention that is integrated into the messaging, the Messages app on iPhone. So that's where you'll find that feature. Okay, so why don't we cover the next story? So Tika. Let me pull up here. Tika, a TikTok alternative. I remember covering when India banned TikTok. I think that's more like, I think it's like 2 years ago. So this Indian TikTok alternative has shut down with basically nobody really knew where the money came from to actually run this TikTok alternative, and it was quite unclear who was actually running this company. I mean, it was being run by let me see here, I think it was called I'm gonna look in my notes. There was definitely somebody who was behind this this application, Tika. If hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Doll Technologies. So they were behind this video app. And yeah, it was based in Singapore, mainly marketing towards the Indian market during the time that there was a kind of void left in the market when the Indian government banned TikTok. And yeah, basically they wanted to try and take advantage of there being people looking for a TikTok alternative, something that they could use as a substitute for the, very popular, uh, very popular application in India. And yeah, so it's so apparently this TikTok alternative Tika will be shut down on June the 27th. So basically there's been a number of TikTok alternatives that have been banned, not banned, a number of TikTok alternatives that have failed to kind of capture the void which was created by the ban of TikTok in India. And as of June the 27th, Tika will no longer exist, so it will be another one of those applications that will be added to the history books, I guess, of applications that just failed. And yeah, there was quite a big user base of this app. However, clearly they weren't making money, or perhaps something else was going on. And yeah, they're now shutting down operations, and yeah, that'll be sad for users of this application. However, they'll probably migrate elsewhere to YouTube, maybe Instagram, or of course maybe back to TikTok if they're willing to deal with the fact that they'll have to use a VPN to circumvent the ban. Yes. But yeah, of course, there are ways of getting around the TikTok ban in India. However, of course, you probably don't want to be circumventing bans, so you want to try and find an alternative application. Also, you might be worried about TikTok, data privacy concerns and such. And potentially that could be a reason for, using an alternative such as Tika. However, now it no longer exists. Tika no longer is on the market. So that is one option which has been taken away from users. Okay, so let's talk about another story. Let me find this one. Debian 12 being released. So this is the latest version of Debian. Debian is quite a popular distro. Of course, lots and lots of other distros are based on Debian, such as Ubuntu. A lot of stuff is based upon Ubuntu, such as Linux Mint, and all of those distros. And yeah, Debian 12 brings some new features to Debian, such as just some updates, such as, of course, the latest versions of LibreOffice, Evolution Transmission, and Mozilla Firefox ESR, as well as a number of other applications here. And yeah, so of course some dependency, some application updates in this version of Debian. So the kind of base version of Debian will now have newer applications, and as well as that, there's the latest version of Linux, the Linux kernel, Linux 6.1. So of course, this was released quite recently as a LTS release of the Linux kernel, and it will be maintained, as it says here, up until 2027. So it's a obvious inclusion for Debian because it's meant to be a stable distribution that kind of focuses on stability instead of, trying to chase the latest software packages. Instead, it focuses on being more stable than a lot of other distros. But of course, you make that trade-off, with the latest features and stability, and it definitely leans on the stability side. And as well as these kind of standard updates, standard updates that most distros would make, They've also made a few changes. One notable one is that if you're installing Debian 12 and you're using, for example, an NVIDIA GPU, and you might not have any open source drivers available for it, then it will now automatically install basically install non-free software. So yeah, if your hardware actually requires it, it will detect if it requires non-free software, and if it does, it will install it without asking you. So now you have to opt out. So that's a bit of a change from previous Debian releases where you had to select using non-free software. However, I think it does make sense because let's say you're on a graphics card without open source drivers, then you won't be able to use the distro if you actually if you have. You won't be able to use a distro if you don't use non-free proprietary drivers. So it's kind of like a necessary, kind of like from an open source perspective, a necessary evil, because you do have to use some proprietary drivers occasionally. Just for your system to work. However, for many people who aren't free software enthusiasts, having to install non-free software is not a problem if you use like Google Chrome, like lots of other non-free software, you use Steam or whatever, then, you probably don't care if you're installing non-free software. However, for some open source, kind of free software enthusiasts, it matters quite a bit to them. So for those kind of users, then they should use, then they should try and opt out of these non-free pieces, this non-free software being included in Debian. Yeah. So yeah, so it's kind of your choice. However, it kind of makes sense that that it would install these drivers that are necessary for your actual system to work. Yeah. And one last thing when it comes to Debian 12, one very minor thing, it's not really a feature update, is it? It's the wallpaper. There's a new wallpaper in Debian 12, and this is the wallpaper right here. Can I zoom in? Let me see. I can zoom in here. This is the Debian 12 wallpaper. So if you install Debian 12, that'll be the wallpaper you'll get. So yeah, looks like a standard Debian wallpaper to me. Anyway, guys, let's see. Is anybody talking in the chat? No. I think that's about it on my notes. Did I write anything else? No, I don't think I did. One last story, guys. I nearly forgot to mention the Reddit controversy. A big story in the Reddit community this week. With Reddit announcing some new updates, and the community at large rejecting their changes and kind of protesting them. So it appears that some communities are planning a 48-hour blackout to protest the new Reddit changes. And yeah, I think overall, with the new changes that Reddit have been making, trying to make people pay for the API at such a high price that it's basically, you won't actually want to pay that high of a price to use the API. That, then it's not a good update having to pay for the API access at such an exorbitant rate. I mean, it said that apparently, you have to pay 24 cents for every 1,000 requests to the API, which is quite a high price, I think. And yeah, according to this article, nearly 3,500 forums are set to go private for 48 hours on Monday to protest these new Reddit pricing, this new Reddit pricing policy. And yeah, this basically means that for people who use third-party Reddit apps, such as Apollo, you will no longer be able to use those apps if the developer does not pay for API access. So yeah. So basically, if you use a third-party app on for Reddit, it's basically over. And you'll have to either use an app that you have to pay for, or use the Reddit app, the default Reddit app. So yeah. But yeah, people have been criticizing the CEO of Reddit for being indirect with their answering of questions when it comes to these changes, and people overall have been kind of annoyed by this, move that Reddit has made. And, of course, Reddit want to try and list on, they want an IPO, and yeah, if they want to actually, be listed on a public exchange, kind of publicly traded company, become a publicly traded company on the stock market, then of course they'll want to make more money, and this is one way I think they're planning to do so, and they kind of want to, kind of become more profitable. I am quite unsure how profitable Reddit is right now, but this is just one move to try and make them more profitable. However, the community has kind of rejected it, with a lot of the big subreddits being a part of this blackout, and a lot of people just not using Reddit for a bit. And of course, I think this kind of move to do a blackout for 48 hours won't be that effective, because 48 hours is not that long for Reddit. I mean, sure, it will kind of stop the constant news stream on Reddit, all of the kind of commentary that keeps Reddit alive. However, that's only for 48 hours. Once those 2 days are done, if all of those people come back to Reddit, nothing will really happen. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think that's it pretty much. It sucks when it comes to the Reddit changes. I don't think I'll really be doing much with my subreddit with these new changes being rolled out. Just because I don't really want to support, charging exorbitant amounts for your API access just to try and block developers from making things, and trying to make everybody use your application. So I'm probably not gonna really be doing much with my subreddits, at least for a bit, and yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. Check out some of my latest videos. Maybe check out last week's Sandro's Week Roundup. I made one last week at 6 p.m. British summertime, and of course this week we also did it at 6 p.m. So we're trying to do it at that time. So if you tune in at 5 p.m. UTC or 6 p.m. British summertime, you can watch this stream every week. And yes, just watch out for the stream coming out, on YouTube. I'll post it to my Discord. Sometimes I post it to Twitter. And yeah. So make sure to check out my Discord server, my Mastodon account, and yeah, until the next one, guys, goodbye.